Welcome to BunniPhish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as BunniPhish on Ravelry, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon. Today is Saturday, July 4th, 2020. And this is episode 21. Thank you for coming to hang out with me. So, it has been like 3 weeks since I recorded, somewhere around there, 2.5. I don't know. It's been a while, even though I feel like I had plenty of opportunities to record in there. I just didn't have the mental space for it. My kids were with their dad for 10 days since the last I saw you. So that was kind of amazing because they hadn't seen him since February because of shelter in place and all of that. And today they are at my dad's house. So we're all being safe, social distancing, keeping our groups that we interact with very small. But yeah, my kids are up there having their best lives. Yesterday I went up there, we got there around noon, and they were in the pool until about 7:30 with like 2 20-minute breaks to eat. So yeah, I'm sure they're having a really great time. They're probably already in the pool. It's a little after 9 today, so I'm sure they're already in the pool and doing all that. Hopefully they remember their sunscreen because they will burn if they don't put it on. And there's quads and stuff up there at my dad's place, so I'm sure they're having a great time. Anyway, other things that happened, the ZK happened. That's why my kids were gone, because they had it had been originally planned for them to go with their dad while I was gone at the ZK. So instead I did ZK at home, which I think was a really great substitute for ZK when we can't get together. Although, if I'm being completely honest, it was very overwhelming for me going into. So let's talk about some stuff real quick. I know I haven't seen you in ever. You probably just want to see the knitting. We're going to talk for a second, and then I'll get to knitting because I have so much crafting to show you, not just knitting. So ZK at home was an experience. It was very different than ZK in person, obviously. Notably, I found it a lot more like stressful, kind of. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because everything feels really stressful right now, because we're in a pandemic and the US is failing at the pandemic. And yeah. But also, like, just, I felt like there was a lot of stimulation for such a small space as my screen. Okay, my screen isn't that small. My screen's this big. Like, it's a pretty big screen, but it still felt like a lot going on in that space. And I was not as active as I thought I was going to be for ZK at home. And also, the bummer about a staycation is that you're at home, so there's always like, oh, I could do some laundry. Oh, I could go clean the bathroom. Let me make sure there's no dishes in the sink. All the little chores are always still there if you're the person who like keeps track of the chores, which I am. So I would be like, oh, I'm just gonna step away for 20 minutes, do a quick chore, and then like 4 hours later, I'd be like, man, I really meant to be at the ZK today, and I'm doing random stuff around my house. So yeah, it was good for what it was, but it wasn't, I don't know how to say this. The event itself was good. It was a good event. Amy and Megan, the Stockinette Zombies, did such a great job. Adela from Lola Bean Yarn Co. was the keynote speaker. Amazing. Her talk was so great. All of the events I attended, I had fun. I just don't know that for me, that should we still be in this pandemic situation, or maybe it'll just be, an epidemic situation in just the US next year. Should that be the case in a year, I don't know that I will attend a virtual knitting retreat again. Nobody's fault except the way my brain works. So, okay. Administrative things. I have a question for everybody. So all the small things knit along is being run in the Ravelry group and on Instagram. I am having difficulty with Ravelry. I am one of the people who is adversely affected by their new designs. It's not as bad as many people, but I do have photosensitivity. So after probably 3 minutes, I start getting a headache, and if I push it to like 4 minutes, I will get a migraine. That said, I know that people post to the Ravelry thread their finished objects for all the small things, but I don't know if I want to keep doing that if other people are also adversely affected. So what I'm asking is, should we continue to post to the Ravelry group, or just move it to just Instagram? I know not everybody has Instagram though, so that's a problem. Or maybe we can have like an email address where you just send your pictures to. And the nice thing about that is if you're taking a picture on your phone, you can just text the picture to the email address. So it would automatically go there. Would that be a helpful option? And then I would just keep track on an open Google Doc for everybody to be able to see. What do you guys think? Because I don't want to abandon all the small things. I love this knit along, even though I haven't been participating as I have in years past. I feel like this happens every summer though. I participate and then I fall off and then I participate some more. So let me know what you think about how we should handle the knit along moving forward. I think that's all of the administrative stuff. Yeah. So let's get into finished objects. I have so many. Where should we start? Let's start over here because this is the oldest stuff. So I finished these socks, which I don't even know where I was in them. These are the Cold as Ice by Lisa K. Ross. I made them using Chappelle Crazy Zarbor Ball in that color, which you can't see because I can't see because the tag got messed up. I have this much yarn left. I'm gonna put it in my blankets. And then these socks are for me. Very exciting. Making a lot of things for me right now. I think because I'm pretty much finished with my Christmas knitting already this year. Other things I finished. 2 dishcloths. Not super exciting, but whatever. Good mindless crochet. This one is obviously scrappy. This one is not scrappy. They are just, I didn't use a pattern. I'm sure there's a pattern out there for something like this, but I do 8 single crochets in a magic ring and then do single crochet 1 in the back loop, single crochet 3 in the back loop, all the way around to do 1 spacer stitch and then 3 stitches in the corner, and then single crochet all the way across the side and 3 single crochets in the corner, all through the back loop, so it gives you kind of a scrubby side. scrubby texture, and then the other side is smooth. And they're just really easy, mindless dishcloths. I also finished, oops, dropped a tag. I'll pick it up in a minute. I finished this. I don't know if you guys, it's got some cat fur on it. The cat must have laid on it. Okay, so I don't know if you guys remember this. Oh, guys, I'm trying to stop saying you guys. Sorry. I'm working on it. It's one of those things that I've just said so long that I'm trying. I'm not great at it. But speech is, language is important, and how we say things is important. So I'm trying really hard to curb some things that I say that are problematic, and saying guys is one of them. And that has been a struggle for lots of years now. Ugh. Okay, anyway, back to this. Back to this little character. I used basically any of the doll patterns by Lally Lala will give you this sort of thing. I think in particular I looked at the pattern for the raccoon because it has like stripes around the bottom and stuff for boots. I think that's what I used for the base of this, but then just took away the tail and the ears, and it has a little bandit mask and a bandana. So this is just a little Christmas elf. I just wanted to make one. The yarns that I used are Cattails yarn, brown aja. Used that for the skin. And then this red is Patton's Lace Shimmer. Had this in my stash for almost as long as Mara has been alive. And I started making a dream bird using it, and also this kind of white color is another Patton's lace. They have mohair content in it. Did not enjoy knitting with the mohair for that project, and oh, I need to wipe my nose, I'm sorry. Because I'm sensitive to mohair. So I must have just gotten a mohair fluff in my nose. So yeah, I decided that this would be a good use for it, because now that it's finished, I can put it with holiday decorations and just pull it out then and not have to worry about the mohair being like on me or in my face. I just think it looks so cute. Ugh. Kind of looks like the little mushroom from Fantasia. You know, the one I'm talking about, the little tiny mushroom. That's what it's reminding me of. Gabriel thought it was really cute with the little closed eyes. He was like, oh, sleeping. Looks like pajamas. Could be a little baby elf sleeping. So yeah, that was a really long-term whip, because what happens is the ZK starts up and I pretty much put aside all of my whips because whips don't count for yardage. And I did win yardage for my team this year. Yay! I don't know who had the highest yardage overall in the ZK, but I won for my team, and that's exciting. Okay, so what do we want to do next? We'll go this way. We'll go spinning next. This was the last finished spinning I had for ZK. It is from, the fibers were from Ohio Valley Natural Fibers. And they're all merino. This is 135 yards of like a chunky, maybe an Aran. And so what I did was I picked up 4 balls of 1 ounce each merino, 4 different colors. So I spun those as singles. And these are the 3 that I have left over. So I have the singles. I have the most of this, I think this is sage green, but maybe not. Garden Ivy is what this one is. Garden Ivy. Forest. It's a really deep, dark brown. This is Striped Taupe. So this one is the only one that wasn't completely a solid color dye. It looked like when you get the natural wool and comb it and it's not one color. And then there was also a lighter green that was called Myrtle. So I spun each of those as singles and then I just 4-plied them to make this beautiful marled yarn. That was the intent when I bought this fiber, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. I got it at Kentucky Sheep and Wool some time ago. And I bought the 4 and I was like, those would look really cool together, either as a 4-ply or maybe as like a gradient sort of spin. I decided to go 4-ply. So that's really exciting. I guess since I held it up, I'll show you my yarn bowl, which I also got at Kentucky Sheep and Wool forever ago. This is from Polly Studios. And oh, that's sad. My little Polly Studios stamp thing wore off. But this one, this is how great they are. This was discounted because the glaze broke in 2 places. And I was like, I think that looks really cool. But okay, if it was the husband who was telling me the story. The wife does the pottery and she was unhappy with how that glaze broke because it's supposed to look, can you see that? This section right here? No, maybe I'll put in a picture. If the picture is better, I'll put in a picture, but it's supposed to just, it's not supposed to break like that. But I think it's beautiful just like that. So yeah, I have this. I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm just really enjoying spinning right now because it's hot and I spin out on my porch and it's just nice to be outside. And then I also spun, so I have a story about this. This fiber is from Into the World. It's a Cordale. And I have had this for a while. A friend sent it to me. And I thought that, well, I saw the fiber and it was beautiful, and my default spin is a 2-ply fractal. That's just what I do with hand-dyed fiber usually, but I saw the braid and I was like, oh, that would just be, pause. I usually do 2-ply fractal with hand-painted fiber because there's just so many great splotches of color. But this was dyed as more of a color block, so I decided I would do a chain ply. And I was like, well, I'll do a fingering weight 3-ply, it'll be fine. So I started spinning it and quickly found that it did not want to spin down to a fingering weight, to thin enough to be a 3-ply fingering weight. I was like, okay. Set aside the bobbin, set aside my wheel for probably 4 days, and then came back to it and said, okay, Cordale, you tell me how you want to be spun. Still with the intent of doing a chain ply. I guess I could have left it as a single, but I don't really use singles that frequently. So I spun my singles, and it is more of a chunky to bulky, somewhere in there, with, of course, some places where it's like a worsted. It's fine. So these, it does have long color pool sections, as you can see, and these do go together, but when I was plying, my single broke and I just couldn't get it to reattach. So I just broke it into 2 skeins. So this one's about 14 yards, and this one is about 57 times 2. 114 yards, probably more like 110 with shrinkage. This fiber floofed so much when it hit the bath. It was definitely looked more like a worsted before it went into the bath, and then it floofed, and it's definitely more of like a chunky, bulky range. It's really lovely, but I probably won't keep it. I hardly keep my hand spun, so everything here today that I've spun is probably going to end up with somebody else. You probably won't see it knit up here. My final finished spin is this little skein right here from Valhalla Acres Fiber Farm. And, oh, you can't see that. Okay. So I also picked up 3 little, I think these were 1/2 ounce balls, because this is definitely not a 3 ounce skein. This is a 4 ounce skein, definitely not a 3 ounce, or probably like a 3.5 ounce. So this, I picked up 3 little balls of fiber, and one was a tonal green, very pretty. One was a pretty semi-solid blue, and then the third one was definitely like a variegated rainbow. So I did each of those balls as one ply and then plied them together, and I am super pleased with how this turned out. I'm going to do some more math, so if you're counting, I'm sorry. Let's see, this was 37 wraps on a 2-yard nitty nutty, so that is 74, so about 70 yards of kind of a DK to worsted weight, with a few spots where things go a little chunky, but whatever, it's hand spun. So yeah, it's just really fun. It reminds me of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a lot, but I probably won't keep this, so I don't know. If you are interested in any of the hand spun, talk to me, we can figure something out, because I don't have any intent for any of them. So on to other finished objects. I know I have so many. This is what happens when I'm gone for a very long time. I had not even started these last time I saw you, but they are my voting day socks. I have been asked if I will be releasing this pattern. I will. My local library is opening for, they're calling it grab and go services. So you're not supposed to loiter at the library, but then on the site it also said that you could reserve the computer for up to an hour, and they would have disposable keyboard covers available. So I'm going to look into that. That happens on Monday. So I'm going to see about that. And then I should be able to release this pretty soon. I will let you know when I do. So anyway, here they are. I have 2 socks. I only blocked them. They're for me. I only blocked them because I podcast. I wouldn't block my socks if I didn't podcast, if I'm being serious, or if they're a gift. But these are for me. I will be wearing them. They are worked, this panel is a color work panel, but the sock is worked intarsia in the round style. So there is quite a bit of purling on the sock, but that doesn't bother me. The yarn that I used is this main body color is from Someone Six Knit. This color has been termed by ZKers at least to be the controversial color. So there is a swear in the name. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I am going to turn this card around so you can read it. I'm going to turn it around in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I will let you know when I take it down in just a moment. Okay, so the swear is gone. So yeah, I plan to wear these on all voting days, even though I will be voting from home through the mail. I will be wearing these. I say that, but the first, our primaries are August 4th. Ooh, so just 1 month away. I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle wearing socks on that day, but definitely November 3rd. And let's see, the other yarns that I used, this is a merino silk blend. I don't remember the brand of yarn. My sister bought 4 skeins of it to make sweaters for her her boyfriend's girls, and she got that, and she got a beautiful red. Oh, those are so pretty. If I think about it, I will take a picture. I like showing you guys what she's working on. She makes really cool stuff, especially because she doesn't use any patterns. But I was planning on making these socks, and I knew that I wanted to do a panel with a background color, and I had this beautiful mini from 716. I don't know what the colorway is. It is a DK weight mini though, so that's why those letters extra pop out of there, because that yarn is thicker. But I didn't have any gray in my stash that was appropriate for the panel, and I knew I wanted gray, and so she picked up this yarn, 4 skeins of it, and I was like, can I have about 10 grams? I don't know how many grams I actually took. I didn't weigh it. I just rolled out a ball that I thought would be big enough for the panel, and it was more than enough. So I don't remember what that yarn is. But I'm super pleased with these socks. I think they're very, very cute. I am excited to wear those. Then the last finished object is the Bloomsbury sweater. Maybe it's just Bloomsbury by, hold on, I have it pulled up here. Oh, I did have it pulled up. Apparently I closed it. I want to say, nope, I'm totally gonna mess it up. But I will put it at the bottom of the screen. And, oh, so about show notes, I'm still gonna link things to Ravelry where I have it. I don't know how that will work clicking through. So if you have adverse reactions to Ravelry, proceed with caution when clicking through. Oh, that makes me feel so icky. Okay, so here's the Bloomsbury. You won't be able to see any of this. Maybe a little. Maybe a little. Okay, so down this shoulder, down both arms, there is lace panel. And down the front, it's plain, but except it has the lace going across the collar. You know what? I'll put in a pattern picture here so you can see what it looks like. You just can't see mine because it's black. But here's the back, and it has that lace panel. I am super excited to wear this, you know. But by the way, this is a black worsted weight sweater. It's been in the 90s all week. It's going to continue to be in the 90s for another week. Why did I need a black worsted weight sweater? I just did. So I used Plymouth Yarn Company Encore in color 217. I had 2 different dye lots for this. I did not alternate skeins in the body, so hopefully that won't be a problem. But I finished it yesterday, and I was out in the sun with it, and I didn't see any glaring blocks of color. But anyway, back to 2 different dye lots. So I bought 6 skeins of yarn because that's how much I needed for the sweater in my size. I made whatever the 4th size in is, maybe a 40-inch bust or something. So let's talk about the sweater pattern. It's beautiful. The pattern itself is not overly difficult. The beginning, the setup is a little weird. I was like, what is going on here? But I just trusted the pattern, and the pattern came through, and it was fine. So then, because it's kind of a raglan setup, but the increases aren't done the way you would normally. The increases aren't done in the places that you would normally do raglan increases. Let's say it like that. So I had to trust the pattern for that, and I did, and it turned out fine. The instructions were okay. They were mostly clear. I think all the times that I was like, what is this person talking about? It was reader error, not necessarily pattern error. However, the gauge, I used the recommended yarn weight, but the needle size was an 11. I think I used the recommended yarn weight. I had to have, because I bought 6 balls of this yarn because that was what was required for my size for the sweater, and I only used 4.5. So there's no way that, like, and I based it off of yardage, not off of how many balls of yarn. So there's no way that it was meant to be a chunky weight sweater. But it did recommend size, I think size 7mm needles. What? I ended up knitting mine on 7 8/8, so US 7 and US 8, which I think is 4.5 and 5.0 millimeters. That might be incorrect. I don't remember. But anyway, I swatched on the recommended needles, and I was like, oh no, I don't like the way that looks. So I went way down on needle sizes, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's really, really cute, but it is way too hot for me to be showing you. But look forward to it on some podcast in the fall or winter. I already know I'm going to love it. I've come to the realization that as much as I love the color green, I don't wear it that often. So knitting green sweaters is, while I love it, it's not very practical. I do wear the sweaters that I have, but I wouldn't wear, I have 2. I have a Sarah, which is a cardigan, long sleeved, and I have not green, I have a gray speckle Sarah, short sleeved. And then I have that's spelled SERRA. And then I have a $5 in Paris, which is a pullover, short sleeve, green sweater dress thing. And I love it. I just don't wear it that much because what I wear is black and gray, but mostly black. So now I have a black sweater, and I feel like I'm going to knit it or wear it all the time. And now I think I need to knit myself a fingering weight black cardigan. Why do I do this to myself? Whatever, it's fine. I am going to love wearing this as soon as it's not 90 degrees. I know, because I've tried it on several times to make sure that the fit was where I wanted it to be. So let's go works in progress. I only have 2 because I just finished the sweater yesterday, and that's where a lot of my time and energy was going into. I have a sock on the needles for my mom's boyfriend. It's just plain vanilla. This is how much I did since yesterday, in case you were wondering. Could be because it's plain vanilla, so it feels like it's never going anywhere. So I move that marker every day. plain vanilla because he is very much a likes dark colors, likes plain things sort of guy. So this yarn, I had to do some sock surgery on this sock, and I did a little photo tutorial, which I will walk you through pretty quick. This yarn has 2 additional colors. This was knit cuff down, obviously. So there's this gray stripe up here, and then there was purple, then pink, then this lighter brown stripe, yellowish. So I put the needle into the very top round of the yellow, and then into the second from the bottom round of the gray, because I wanted to use the gray to do the Kitchener to put it back together, because the main color is that same gray. Those are the same colors. So if I ran out of yarn on the Kitchener, if I didn't guess correctly with how much tail I needed to make sure I had, then I could just pull from the outside of the ball. That did not happen, thankfully, but it could have, so I wanted to make sure that I had a plan in case I needed a few more stitches, because it would be awkward to have a totally random color, like maybe some purple stitches, thrown into the Kitchener. So I unraveled the yarn, I cut right where the gray started, and I Kitchenered all the way around, had just the perfect amount, probably 2 inches to weave in the tail, and I think that you really can't tell. And definitely once they've been worn once or twice, you won't be able to tell at all that that was sock surgeried. So yeah, it was really, really simple. Because I started this, I knit most of this in my bed, and I do not have good lighting color-wise on my bedside lamp. It's like a very yellowy light bulb. It reminds my brain of like candles and campfire, so it doesn't keep me up. The light doesn't keep me up. So in the light, the colors looked more man-friendly. I hate saying that. I don't understand why colors are gendered, but the reality is that they are. And so they looked fine at night, and then the next day I was with my kids in the park, and I was continuing to knit on it, and I was like, I don't know about those colors. I continued to knit, and got through the heel, and I was like, Mom, started these for your boyfriend. Is he going to wear them with those 2 stripes? And she was like, oh, I really like them, but I don't think he'll wear them. And I was like, okay. Would he wear the socks if I took those 2 stripes out? And she said, yeah. No way was I ripping back all of this from the heel to this stripe just to remove 2 stripes. It was way faster to do a little bit of sock surgery than to reknit all of that. And yeah, it's just vanilla forever until I get to the appropriate length, and then a toe, and then this is a perfect. So it's got the yellow yarn, you can see it on the outside, but it has the yellow yarn that shows you exactly where to start your next sock so that they can be completely matching. And when I do the second sock, I will just cut out that yarn when I get to it instead of having to do sock surgery. But ta-da, ta-da, there's sock 1. He wears a size 11 men's, so instead of doing my normal 60 stitches or 64 stitches, somewhere in there, I am working on 70, so the sock is ginormous and taking forever. It's not that bad. I'm just complaining. No need to complain, just doing it anyway. But yeah, that's that sock. And then I pulled out another whip from wintertime. This is just a tube cowl that I am knitting. I started it with, these are the yarns that I'm using right now. Started it with minis that I got from the Ornament Swap. They're Tilting Planet minis, and I was just using a gray silk single yarn for in between. Kind of like what's it called? The Litness scarf or Litness cowl by Amy Florence. I assume it's similar to that. I haven't actually looked at her pattern, but I kind of just saw it on her podcast and I was like, oh, that's really cute. I could make something like that. So I made something like that, but it's not the same. But if you wanted a pattern, mine is kind of based off of looking at hers. I'm doing 15 rounds of the colorful yarns, the non-gray yarns, and then I'm doing 10 rounds of the gray in between. And I'm using a few different minis of gray. This is my third gray mini that I'm using. And yes, I know that this color is kind of also a gray base, but it also has speckles of browns and purples in it, so I'm not counting it as gray. And this is how much I've done. I picked it up 3 weeks ago, did a big chunk and then set it down for a week. But I did put on, what is that, probably 5.5, 6 inches. So that's cool. I don't have a specific length that I want this to be. I just have a bunch of, this is also just stockinette in the round forever. I have a bunch of leftovers that Josh, formerly Sort of a Knitter, now Rebel Pup Knits, gave me. They're leftovers from designs or projects that he's worked on. And so I have a range of colors. I think I have about 10 more colors to go through. And then I will see how long the cowl is, and if I like it, good. And if I want it to be longer, I will just go through my stash of minis to find more singles if I have them, or if I don't have singles, I can always just put in whatever ply structure, because some of the beginning colors weren't singles. We have been joined by our co-host, but she's not on the couch as usual. She's under my desk by my feet because that has been her spot for the past month or so. It must be cooler under there than elsewhere. Anyway, let's talk books. I only have 3 physical books to talk to you about, and then I have a list of 8 other books that I have finished since I last spoke to you. Not finished. One of them is I'm still reading. No, I didn't even put that one on the list. So 8 books that I finished plus 1 that I am going to, or that I'm listening via audio that I didn't write down. Let's go oldest first, or like first finished. Out of the Green, Tales from Fairyland, edited by Martha J. Allard and Casey Vanderkar. I have had this book on my shelf forever. Not forever, but for a long time. It was published in 2014, and my friend Tiffany sent it to me. Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll show you. And she wrote in it. Tiffany is someone who I knew in high school, and she wrote tons of short stories, and I edited them for her. Not just like, she had great ideas, but not so great at like breaking things into paragraphs and stuff. So I did a lot of editing for her. And that was really exciting that she was published in this anthology. I was super proud of her. So it's short stories. There are 13 stories. Oh, it says right at the top. I could have just read instead of counting. So there's 13 stories. They're about fairies in their various states. I enjoyed reading this a lot. I really, really like fairies and fae, so that was pretty good. And also it's signed by the author to me. I don't think it actually says my name. I think it says my favorite villain. That would be me, because I was a villain in her stories. Her characters were based off of my group of friends in high school. So I was a villain. I finished this yesterday. A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. So good. This is not a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, but like there is Wonderland. The main character's name is Alice. There are characters from Alice in Wonderland in this book, but it doesn't follow the storyline of Alice in Wonderland, if that makes sense. It's awesome. So Alice is basically a monster hunter. Wonderland is a dreamland, and nightmares take shape in Wonderland and then cross the veil between Wonderland and our world if they're able to. And her job is to make sure that they don't. But then, like, other things happen. It's really, really good. Highly recommend this book. I like it a lot. And then the last physical book I have to show you is Deacon King Kong by James McBride. I barely started it. Normally I wouldn't even like bring it on to the podcast. I got through like 3 pages and then I was tired because I spent the whole day in the sun yesterday. But this is not just the Oprah's Book Club, but also Shelby, who is Gigi of Gigi Made It. It's her daughter. She has a book club, and it's called, I think it's just called Shelby and the Book Club, but I will put it down at the bottom of the screen. And we're going to read a book a month, and this is the 2nd book. I didn't get in on it the first month. I don't remember what the first month's book was because I was not a part of it, but then this is the 2nd book. I have not even started it enough to talk about it, but if you wanted to, this is the July book for book club. And the way book club works is there's going to be 2 discussions a month. She's going to host on Instagram Live. The first meeting is on July 12th. If I remember, I'll put the time down at the bottom. If not, you can send me a message and I'll be like, oh yes, the time is at this time. So this is what we're reading first. I'm really looking forward to it. He also wrote The Color of Water, which I've read before, and I enjoyed that a lot. So on to non-physical books that I read. I finished Girl, Woman, Other, which I believe I was reading last time I talked to you, by Bernadine Evaristo. So good. So moving. It's the story of Black women in the UK, mostly, but also the stories of mothers who came to the UK and women who leave the UK, and identity. There's a trans woman. Not a trans woman, there is a trans man, and what that means. Straight women, lesbians, polyamorous, all walks of life, young women, older women, all sorts of career paths. So good. It's just amazing. It's such a good book. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Definitely go and read it. These next 3 are audiobooks, and I'm pretty sure that I totally did not talk about them on the podcast because I listened to them when I took the kids to their dads, and my last podcast was before that. So, did not talk about any of these. Joyful by Ingrid Fittel Lee. I may have talked about this one a little bit because I was listening to it, but I finished it while driving the kids to their dad. Very good. All about joy of color and how our society is kind of like color phobic, in that, like, you can look at my living room and see that it's mostly, let's see, this hand, gray, green gray, dark gray. Couch is black. But then I have this pop of color blanket, and how a lot of people stick to this kind of like gray life, but then to help bring pops of color for color phobic people, it brings a lot of joy to the space, which my blanket does. This is my first ever mitered square blanket. It is looking pretty raggedy. It's what, like 7 years old or something? And it would actually be almost 9 years old. No, almost 8 years old, because that's when I started it. But it also talks about like painting schools instead of drab gray, having walls that are bright yellow or bright orange to bring stimulation to the brain and make you feel happier, and how painting something bright colors just automatically makes the space feel happier. Really, really good audiobook. The narrator was fantastic. I also listened to, with my kids, Barracoon, the story of the, I don't remember the subtitle. I only wrote down Barracoon. The story of the last black cargo, maybe? You'll see it on the screen. I took a picture of that before I returned it to the library, by Zora Neale Hurston. So good. So, like, interesting. I listened to it with my kids in the car, and it's a series of interviews, and the man who is interviewed, he is the last of the black cargo. He was bought on the African coast after slavery was officially ended, but the captain figured he could still offload him and somehow get around the laws, and then he got back to the US and he couldn't. So then he was only enslaved, the interviewee was only enslaved for a few years, but that's still awful to be taken away from your home. And he and the other kidnapped, bought Africans had planned to go back home, but they couldn't because it was too expensive. And it talks about how they set up space for themselves and just atrocities that were set against them. My kids tried to listen, but the interviewee had a very very specific accent and dialect, and the book was written with the accent and dialect intact. So they didn't quite understand everything that was read in his voice. But we talked about it, had great discussion on it. And then the other audiobook that I listened to on that trip and then finished once I was home was Macbeth by Joe Nesbo. That was a retelling of a Macbeth in, I think it was Ireland or Scotland, somewhere in the UK area. I should have written it down. I listened to it 2 weeks ago. It was definitely not set in America, and it is about the police force and how so this book was recommended to me by one of my pen pals. It's about the police and how they have like a code where you take care of all of the police, your fellow police members, and then simultaneously commit violence against other members of the police. And it was just like, I feel that very frequently books fall into my lap that are very timely. I know I said that a billion times on the last podcast, but it's true. like I might get a book at one point or get a book recommendation at one point, but then when I finally get around to reading it, there are just so many things that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is real life going on right now. Yeah, there was a lot of moments where I was like, yep, this is exactly why defund the police is something that people are going so hard for right now in America. I also listened to Say Her Name by Zetta Elliott. She is a professor, I believe. I listened to the introduction, but I didn't read it, and sometimes my retention for facts are less good when I'm listening to things. And she was asked to teach a poetry workshop to high schoolers. And then she continued to write poetry about the Say Her Name movement and things like that. And so it's a collection of poems. It is so good. I listened to it on Audible Stories, but I have put it on my to purchase list because it's so good and heartbreaking. And there are several different poem structures in the books, so many different voices in the poems. It talks about current movements, it talks about women of the past. So good. Even if you don't like poetry, definitely give Say Her Name by Zetta Elliott a read or a listen or whatever you have to do. And if you do listen via Audible Stories, the narrator did such a great job. Such a great job. I don't always read, I frequently do, but I don't always read or listen to the notes part of a book, but I definitely listen to all of the notes for that book. And currently on audio, I am listening to Soldier. It is the third book in the Talon series. I don't know if it's the Talon series. I think it is. I know I talked about the first book. I can't remember when I listened to the second book, if it was before the last podcast or after, but I've been listening to that because I don't have another audiobook and the radio in my car doesn't work, or works intermittently, I should say. I need to get it looked at, but that's not a necessity for my life right now. That's a luxury. So I will wait on that and just continue to listen to audiobooks on my phone for the time being. I have read in paper form Who Moved My Cheese for Kids by Spencer Johnson, MD, and Christian Johnson. That was recommended during one of the ZK discussions. I don't remember which discussion, and I don't remember who mentioned it, other than that she's a teacher, and so she reads that with her students. And I read it, and then I had my kids read it, and it's just a story about problem solving, basically. And I really, really liked it, and I really enjoyed discussing it with my kids. I finished Bitter Blue by Kristen Cashore. It's the second book. I don't remember the name of the first book. I just talked about the first book not very long ago. I read it during quarantine time. Or I listened to it actually on YouTube because I had it as a playaway and the playaway didn't work. So I picked up Bitter Blue because I had that playaway and that playaway also didn't work. So I read it in physical copy, but I already returned that to the library. It was really, really good. And again, one of those books where I was like, oh my goodness, so many parallels to real life right now. Bitter Blue is the daughter of King Lek, who manipulated people and gaslit people, and there's a magical component to it. So he was able to make people do things and then make them think that it was their idea and stuff like that. He was the ruler for 35 years, and then 10 years ago in the story, 8 years ago in the story, he died. He was killed by somebody to like release stuff. If you want to know more about that, read the first book in the series. So he's dead now, and Bitter Blue is the queen, and she's trying to like pick up all the pieces of her kingdom and figure out what actually happened, because nobody actually knows what happened because everybody's mind was manipulated. I also read March Forward Girl by Melba Pattillo Beals. She was one of the Little Rock Nine, and this book was a prequel to her book Warriors Don't Cry, which I haven't read yet. I am going to get my hands on it hopefully soon. So that's a junior level nonfiction book, and I read it, and trigger warnings, there's like an almost rape scene. There's a lot of talk about the KKK in it. So I read it, and Gabriel is reading it right now. And one day we were at the park and we were reading, and he was like, Mom, did you know that there was this group called the KKK that like did all those horrible things? And I said, I did know that. Did you know that they're still around? And he was like, what? That still happens? Like the look on his face was the way that I feel when I think about it. Yeah. So it's a good read. It is a difficult read. But it's also, if you're looking for books to talk with your kids about race and stuff, it's a good one. I think that I'm going to have Mara read it, but maybe not this summer. I think next summer I'm going to have her read it. Not because we talk about race all the time, but I just think that some of the more like adult things that happen in the book, even though this all happens up until she's in middle school. Like it's all, her whole story before becoming part of the Little Rock Nine. I think some of it is just more than Mara will comprehend. And I want her to comprehend it when she reads it. So I think I'm going to have her read it next year. So yeah, that's everything I read. I do have a to-read list that I'm pretty excited about. I will put in a picture of those books. They're my July books, with the caveat that I'm hoping to get through half of them because even though I'm like, oh, I want to read all these things, I only have so many hours in the day. And even though I read for at least an hour almost every day, I might not read all of them. But the reason why I pick out so many is that so that I have the option to like change up books that I want to read, and also so I don't have analysis paralysis of, oh my goodness, there's so many books in the world that I could read. All right, I think that's everything that I have for you. Let me know what you think about all the small things, like how we should proceed from here with that. Let me know what you're working on, what you are reading, how you're feeling, how you're doing. Is where you are still in quarantine? Are you coming out of it? While I'm saying that, the governor just said that kids are going back to school in the fall, and I am like simultaneously, yay, a little bit of freedom, and also, oh my gosh, how are we going to make that work in a way that's safe? There's a 65-page document, which I have not read yet. I'm kind of just waiting for the school to like release their thoughts to parents instead of reading it myself, because I feel like that would stress me out. That was released on June 30th. So probably in the next week or so, the school will get out to the parents and let us know what's going on. All right, I'm rambling now. I miss you guys when I don't record. I think about recording all the time, and then I just don't for whatever reason. When my kids are here, it's because they're here. And I can't just be like, go to the park, go away. I mean, I could, but we're still not playing on equipment. So I can't just be like, go to the park, even though I trust them to walk to the park that's 3 blocks away. Okay, I'm gonna let you go for real. I will try to record in a shorter period of time between the next episode as went from last time, but we shall see. We'll see how I'm feeling. I hope you guys are doing the best that you can be. And yeah, get in touch with me through Instagram or comments. Probably not through Ravelry because I'm not checking Ravelry. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Blech.